In the knockout stage of the World Cup, a game cannot end in a tie. Let me explain what that means, because it's the foundation for everything else. A World Cup has two parts. First comes the group stage, where teams play each other and a tie is a perfectly normal result. Both teams earn a point and move on with their lives. But once the group stage ends, the tournament switches into the knockout stage. And the knockout stage has one ruthless rule. Every game must produce a winner. You win, you advance. You lose, you fly home. There is no draw. There is no, we'll settle it next week. It ends today. So what happens when a knockout game is tied? First, you play the full 90 minutes, two halves of 45. If it's level at the end, the game doesn't stop. The two teams play extra time, two more halves of 15 minutes each, 30 additional minutes to find a winner. And if after all of that, after 120 minutes of football, the score is still level, then comes the moment every player quietly dreads and no fan can look away from. The penalty shootout. Before we go further, let's make sure we agree on what a single penalty kick actually is, because everything builds on this. A penalty is the closest thing football has to a duel. One attacker places the ball on a marked spot on the ground, the penalty spot, which sits exactly 11 meters from the center of the goal. On the line stands one goalkeeper. That's it. No defenders, no teammates, no wall of bodies. Just a kicker, a keeper, and an open net behind him. The referee blows the whistle. The player runs up and strikes the ball. The keeper tries to stop it. That's a penalty kick. And on paper, it looks almost too easy for the shooter. The goal is 7.32 meters wide and 2.44 meters tall. A huge target. And only one person is allowed to defend it. In theory, you should score nearly every time. In practice, professionals miss constantly. Because simple on paper and simple under pressure are not the same thing. When an entire nation is holding its breath, when you've already run for 2 hours, when one kick decides whether your World Cup continues or ends, those 11 meters feel like the longest walk of your life. A shootout is just a series of those moments, one after another, until one team finally cracks. Now here's what most people get wrong. They watch a shootout and assume it's luck. Player walks up, kicks it, keeper guesses left or right, in or out. A coin flip. It is not a coin flip. There's an entire hidden system underneath those 5 minutes. Rules deciding who kicks, in what order, at which goal, and exactly what that goalkeeper is allowed to do. And by the end of this video, you'll understand all of it. It starts with the referee reaching into his pocket and pulling out an actual coin. That coin is where the shootout begins. And here's the first surprise. There are actually 2 coin tosses, not one. The first one decides which goal the kicks will be taken at. Both goals are the same size, obviously, but one end might have the loudest, most hostile part of the crowd packed behind it. One end might have grass that's been chewed up by 2 hours of play. So instead of letting the teams argue about it, the referee flips a coin, a captain calls it, and that decision gets made fairly. The second coin toss is the big one. It decides which team shoots first. And going first matters. Here's why. In a shootout, you're not really kicking against the goalkeeper. You're kicking against the scoreboard. If the other team goes first and scores, now you have to score just to stay level. Miss, and you're behind, with the entire stadium watching. The team that goes second spends the whole shootout chasing. The team that goes first sets the pace. I'll be straight with you, though. Researchers have argued for years about whether going first is a real, measurable advantage. Some big studies say yes. Some recent, larger ones say it barely matters. But ask any player and they'll tell you the same thing. They'd rather go first. Leading is easier than chasing. That part isn't up for debate. Okay, the coins are flipped. Here's how the shootout actually runs. Each team picks 5 players to take kicks. They alternate. One player from the first team steps up and shoots. Then one player from the second team. Back and forth, 5 each. A simple rhythm. First team, second team, first team, second team, all the way down. A couple of rules that surprise people. Every kick has to be taken by a different player. You cannot send your best striker up 5 times in a row. 5 kicks, 5 different people. And here's a fun one. The goalkeeper himself is allowed to walk up and take a kick if his team wants him to. It's rare, but it's completely legal. Now, whoever scores more out of 5 wins. But watch this clever part most people miss. The shootout can end before all 10 kicks are even taken. If one team builds a lead so big that the other side simply cannot catch up with their remaining kicks, the referee stops it right there. Why keep going? The math has already decided it. So sometimes a shootout ends after 4 kicks, or even 3. That's not the referee rushing. That's the result being mathematically locked in. But what if both teams are dead level after all 5 each? That happens constantly. Then we reach the 2 scariest words in football. Sudden death. Sudden death is exactly what it sounds like. Now it's 1 kick each, round by round. First team shoots, second team shoots. If one scores and the other misses, it's over instantly. Done. Go home. But if they both score or both miss, you go again and again. As long as it takes. There is no limit. It keeps running until one team finally blinks. Picture a staring contest where both people are holding a grenade. Every kick is now do or die. The pressure in sudden death is a completely different world from those first 5. Now here's a detail that quietly decides shootouts before they even start. The order. Which player goes first, which goes second, all the way to 5th. That's chosen by the coach, and it gets agonized over. Most teams put a confident, dependable scorer first to set the tone, and save another cool head for the do-or-die 5th kick. There's no magic formula. Good coaches study who actually delivers under pressure, not just who looks calm in training. Get the order wrong, and your most nervous player ends up taking the most important kick of his life. 2 more rules that catch people off guard. First, only players who are on the field at the final whistle of extra time can take a kick. You can't bring on a fresh penalty specialist just for the shootout. Whoever's on the pitch at minute 120 is your group. Full stop. Second, and this one's strange, if one team has fewer players because somebody got sent off earlier, meaning kicked out of the game with a red card, then the other team has to drop a player too, to make it even. It's called reducing to equate. 11 kickers against 10 would be unfair, so the bigger team has to match the smaller one. And deciding who sits out? Quietly, one of the most brutal calls a coach makes all tournament. So that's the machine. The coins, the order, the math, the survival round. But none of it explains the most intense part of all. The single second when the ball is actually struck. Because what the goalkeeper is allowed to do in that exact moment is where football gets truly strange. So the ball is on the spot. The kicker is ready. And before anything even happens, the referee is watching one thing more closely than anything else: the goalkeeper's feet. Here's the rule, and it's newer than you'd think. Since 2019, at the exact moment the kicker strikes the ball, the goalkeeper must have at least part of 1 foot touching the goal line, or behind it, not in front of it, on the line, or behind it. That's the law. Why does that tiny detail matter so much? Because for decades, keepers cheated it. They'd creep forward a step or 2 right before the kick, shrinking the distance, making themselves bigger in front of the goal. A small advantage. But at this level, small advantages win World Cups. So the rule chained them to the line. And if a keeper jumps off his line early and the shot is missed or saved, the kick gets taken again. Not counted, retaken. First time, he just gets a warning. Do it again in the same shootout, and it's a yellow card. So he can't simply cheat every kick and hope nobody notices. That's his feat. Now here's the part I promised you at the very start. What the goalkeeper is allowed to do with everything else. For most of football's history, the answer was basically whatever he wants. Keepers would dance on the line, wave their arms, talk to the shooter, stare him down, tap the posts, anything to crawl inside the kicker's head and plant a sliver of doubt. And the rulebook said almost nothing about it. Then came the 2022 World Cup final. Argentina against France. And Argentina's goalkeeper, Emiliano Martinez, who plays his club football for Aston Villa in England, put on a performance in that shootout unlike anything the sport had seen, gesturing at the French shooters, talking to them, tossing the ball away to slow everything down. Open, deliberate mind games on the biggest stage there is. And Argentina won. Now, nobody's claiming that alone decided the match. But the people who write the rules watched that final and decided something finally had to be said out loud. So, in 2023, they added new language. The goalkeeper must not behave in a way that unfairly distracts the kicker. No touching the posts or the net. No deliberately wasting time. No antics that fail to show basic respect for the opponent. Sit with that for a second. One goalkeeper got so good at messing with shooters' heads that football rewrote its own laws to rein him in. That's how much the mental game matters here. But it cuts both ways. The kicker has tricks too. You're allowed to pause during your run-up. That little stutter step as you approach the ball. Totally legal and genuinely clever because it can force the keeper to dive before you've even kicked. Players drill that hesitation for hours. What you cannot do is come to a full stop at the very end of your run-up and then kick. That's an illegal feint. The line between a legal stutter and an illegal stop is thin, but the referee is watching for it. Cross it, and even if you score, the goal is wiped out. It's marked as a miss, and you get a yellow card for your trouble. One last thing people always wonder about. Where is everyone else during all this? Simple. Every other player from both teams has to wait outside the penalty area, behind the ball, until the kick is taken. No crowding, no sneaking forward. Just the kicker, the keeper, and 20 teammates watching from a distance, unable to do a single thing to help. And that's the full picture. Go back to where we started. A World Cup knockout game, tied after 120 brutal minutes, with no draw allowed and somebody about to go home. It all comes down to this. A coin, an order, a line painted on the grass, a goalkeeper trying to read a mind, and one human being walking 11 meters to decide whether a country celebrates or weeps. It was never a coin flip. It's the most rule-packed, psychological, beautifully cruel 5 minutes in all of sports. And now, when you watch one at this World Cup, you won't just see a guy kicking a ball at a net. You'll see everything moving underneath it. So, let me leave you with this. When the next shootout comes, and at a tournament this size, one is always coming. Who do you think cracks first? The kicker or the keeper trying to live inside his head? If this finally made the game make sense, subscribe. Every video here breaks football down exactly like this. No fluff, no filler, just the things nobody ever bothered to explain to you.